So I just finished playing Baldur's Gate 3, which means it's time for my conclusive game review. I did a first impressions video when I started because BG3 is a lot. If you're looking to get into Baldur's Gate 3, I'd say start there, because I'm too lost in the sauce by now to speak as though you don't already know the game type or something about it. I can't even begin to cover the game in any depth that hardcore fans would probably want, so I won't. This video is just a collection of my points of praise and minor criticisms. If you agree or disagree or have anything to add, please let me know in the comments, especially if there's any mods you'd recommend, because I haven't touched any. And I do plan on starting a new campaign sometime after the new 2025 patch, but I need to give myself some time to breathe first. I have 245 hours into the game as of this moment. I finished one campaign on my own as a ranger, I'm 2/3 of the way through a campaign with Z as a Tempest cleric, and I've got even more hours than what's on my Steam spent watching Z play through his own game as a monk. Aside from when we first picked up BG3 and turned the difficulty down because it was too hard to learn how everything worked when we were dying from everything that we ran into, the rest of my experience has been on balanced mode. I'm going to start with praise for the game because it's hard not to. If you've been online and dabbled in games, there's no way that you haven't heard how acclaimed BG3 is in the community of video gamers and D&D enthusiasts alike. The amount of customization the game offers is beyond anything I've ever played, both in how you roleplay your character with your options in story and how you play through mechanics. BG3 hits a perfect balance of story and gameplay. It's addicting, honestly. On your first campaign, it's literally hard to stop playing because the world is so interesting. There's so many things to want to do, discover, or overcome. It's hard to stop thinking about it even when you do stop playing. I've lost sleep trying to go over my choices in-game or how to better approach an encounter. Baldur's Gate 3 truly captures the experience of playing Dungeons & Dragons, and not to sound antisocial, although I am, and unashamed, but I love that you can do it alone. Like I mentioned, I finished my solo campaign and have played more than a fair bit with Z on one together, but the experience of co-oping is not my preference, for games this complex anyway. Sitting at a table playing D&D is different. You're all there, present, looking at the same thing, watching each other roll. It's even useful in person in the sense that you can point at things and talk to people about what you're thinking about doing. Communication is just a lot easier when you're all looking at the same thing, but when you're all on your own separate computer screens, you're all seeing very different things, have ridiculously huge inventories and options, and yeah. I did play in the room with C, but found that I really didn't enjoy that experience. When you're both walking into a new dungeon room at the same time, if you take the approach to divide and conquer, you don't actually get to experience the other's half of things. You miss out on the discovery happening just off screen, and if you circle around to retrace their steps, it's just a bunch of empty chests and a waste of time. Personally, I felt like I was cutting my experience in half, and it would be more so given a larger party. And it's not great for puzzle solving. Like, one person can go to a side of the room and say it's clear, but they may have missed a lever or something with a perception check, and the whole party just trusts that, and then you'll all miss out. Or you walk into a room and someone sets off a trap that puts everyone in a horrible position to proceed, but since it's not real D&D, you can reload a state before that. But sometimes that's not what you might want to do. Like, maybe they stepped on the trap, but now 10 minutes of you looting boxes needs to be redone, sort of thing. What if one player makes a character so mad they leave camp, and you never get a chance to even dialogue with them or change their mind? I ended up compromising because Z really liked being in a party, so I played through my campaign further first, so I got the full experience and autonomy. The downside to that too, though, and giving him full reign to enjoy his first experience fully with me as support, relied on my patience to wait. And at times, it can get quite boring. I found myself nudging him in the right direction to save time, but souring his freedom to discover. So if you're not that kind of person, co-op might not be the best way to experience the game. Like, I'd say, we could go check out that corner that is actually a dead end, or stumble into an encounter we don't actually want, or we could streamline the experience and go where I know that we want to. That's the big thing with BG3, where it's not linear and leans on discovery, but that can be really time-consuming or frustrating. Getting held up and bored can happen in regular D&D too if you have fellow players who dawdle or stall, or if you're playing remotely and they're not paying attention. And I tried not to be that person. It is hard, though, to just sit there and give your full attention to another person's character running around a room for 15 minutes before maybe you can do something together. This extends to other players taking their own sweet time chatting up characters or selling items, which you just have to wait on because you cannot do that at the same time to an NPC. Waiting in line at a shop to buy things when you already know what you want or don't need anything but to unload is super boring if someone else is locked in a comparison game on weapons. So if you're anything like me, I'd suggest playing BG3 solo as your first experience. Having full control over your encounters and interactions and how, where, when the party progresses is really key for me. That's not to say that playing with a party isn't nice, but if you're all already familiar with the setting, that's where the fun of having other people's inputs happens. Then you can all be inventive and not care so deeply about the storyline's completion if you've experienced it in some capacity already before. Like, if I played BG3 for the first time with a full party of troll friends who killed all the main characters, so I didn't even know why we were doing what we were doing to progress the story, that would be a major no-no for me. And likewise, I don't want to hold anyone up by taking the time that I need to experience the game to my heart's content, because I have anxiety. I'd have a larger praise section for Baldur's Gate 3, but I don't have a lot of experience in comparative games to hold it up against. In and of itself, it's one of the greatest games I've ever played. I love the story, the party characters' development, the freedom of playstyle, and the choices you can make are truly a marvel. It deserves every accolade that it's gotten. It is a gaming masterpiece. I've played 245 hours in it. Obviously, I enjoyed myself, and I watch a lot of content about it otherwise. And I'm gonna play it the whole way through again a third time, with the new patches too. I just need to give myself a year off. That said, I think it's important to keep the good and bad in perspective. I do have a few criticisms of Baldur's Gate 3, which I would hope to see fixed eventually in the studio's future releases. Number 1, items go missing. Not just misplaced, but missing. Typically when I'm transferring between characters in the profile tab. This wouldn't be that big a deal if it wasn't possible with important items. Nobody can just shrug off and accept when their very rare weapon poofs out of existence. Z had the evil ancient book disappear on him so he couldn't complete the mission. That's a gameplay altering bug, regardless of whether it's a big quest or not. The craziest instance I faced was when I dragged a very rare mace from one character's inventory to equip on another. The item duplicated in their inventory, though one showed the equip icon of being on the other character, and in the other character's equipment slot it showed up, but their original weapon also vanished. And when I got to the counting house, like the bank in the game in Act 3, if you've been diligent in exploring, you'll have some vault keys to get extra goodies from corresponding vaults. I picked up several vault keys throughout my playthrough, and when I finally made it to the counting house, it said I only had one. There were no other characters in my game with keys on them. I transferred them all to my character's keyring, and besides, there is a mechanic of magic pockets where characters can use one another's inventory, so it wouldn't have mattered. They're just gone, and that's frustrating. Next is UI for controllers. Personal preference, but I don't like the layout of playing with a controller over a keyboard. For Baldur's Gate 3 specifically. I usually do like a controller, actually. But here, there are too many wheels to scroll through on your turn once you have lots of character actions, spells, or inventory to be used in battle. One thing that Z found playing as a monk, though, is that the scroll wheel will rearrange itself, which is really not preferable, no matter what kind of gamer you are. If there's going to be so many things to scroll through, you want to be able to do it quickly, knowing where what you're looking for is, and if abilities move, that's hard to achieve. I'm sure that this happens for some reason, like the game thinks it's being helpful, but Z manually changed slots for one of his abilities to be on the main wheel, so he could always see it, it's right there, that's what he wants to use. And not only would it push that back to where it had been originally, but left the main wheel slot empty when there were other actions available to do, even. Which is a strangely annoying thing, to give players the option to rearrange their scroll wheel and then not actually lock those choices into stay. Next up is clothing dyes. So the apparel dyeing system in the base game is awful. The UI to do it, and the look of the results. Firstly, to use a dye, you click on the dye you want, then you have to drag your desired item beside it into the little window, click confirm, and it dies the item, taking you out of the combination screen. That doesn't sound all that bad until you do it several times in a row. You don't know what the die will look like beforehand, so the odds that it's not actually the look that you want is high, even higher since a lot of the dies don't look like what they're called. Many of the dies don't even apply in any discernible way, or look exactly the same as other dies, or don't affect a particular outfit, period. Doing a whole round of trying all the different dies on a piece of equipment can end up being a tedious, massive waste of time. This problem could be easily fixed with either a preview window or the developers making the dies, which are inapplicable to certain items, not able to be used on them in the first place. It is nice that Baldur's Gate 3 creators have made community mods so easy to access through their mod manager. Lots of people have made custom die bundles in different themes and with much better color coordination, and that's awesome, but it faces the same issues in terms of how the dies are applied. The game would really benefit from having an aesthetics preview window to see what dies will look like before applying them. As much as it's nice to have the option to customize, it can be frustrating when such things are only done in half measures. You can dye your character's armor, but half of them don't work, and the process is tedious. Z spent hours playing around with dyes on clothes, and he enjoyed it because he's that kind of person, but not everyone has that patience. Inner dialogue. I feel as though the voice you pick for your playable character should have been eliminated from the game. They never speak outright in cutscenes. Everything you choose in dialogue options is just text, but your main character will occasionally speak to the environment they're in or a quest progression after a cutscene, and it's arguably unnecessary every time it happens or could be worked around. It broke my immersion more than a couple times and felt like it might as well have been done by the main narrator. I picked a female voice semi-similar to the main narrator, so when my character would comment on things, it was like, wait, what? But also the choices are so limited and the dialogue they actually say did not line up with my perception of my character. For a game so good at personal choice and customization, the insertion of your character having comments on things really felt odd to shoehorn in there. Perception checks. The mechanic of perception checks got quite annoying in some cases. I know in actual D&D, the Dungeon Master will ask for your roll, and if you fail, you don't get to know what it was you were supposed to be perceiving. And that's fine. What I struggle with was when I would succeed a perception check and have no idea what my character found out. The glow was too short, or the objects were often too small, and it didn't show up in the action logs as saying, Asterion noticed a button on the west wall sort of thing. I think they fixed that in the most recent patches though, at least a bit, but when I played, I straight up walked out of rooms that I'd won a perception check on after running around it for a few minutes, trying to figure out what it was, and just gave up. On to later party characters. I don't mind characters becoming party members added to camp later in the game than the very start if there is a solid introduction to them in Act 1. I never played with Minthara yet, but from what I understand, she's a bit like Halsin in that she'll complete the Grove mission with you, but then become a full party member after/during Moonrise in Act 2. Halsin stays at your camp and will come with you once you're at the end of cleansing the Curse Land, which could come sooner or later in Act 2, and both of those are fine. And I like Jaheira as a character a lot, but aside from being the leader of the Harpers, which you presumably meet pretty early on in Act 2, not getting her as an option in your party at all until the boss fight at the end of Act 2, and staying at the inn like a wise NPC up until then that you don't actually have to check in with, I didn't feel an inclination to spend more time with her. I did though, because I'm nice and I thought it would make Karlach happy to be hanging out with Jaheira, but I didn't really care if she was available. It also would have been nice if she wasn't just also a druid like Halsin, because he's already filling that role. And then Minsc being addable to the party in Act 3 and us having no idea of his existence or influence beforehand within the story is really strange. Like, why on earth would I add this ranger to my party to finish out the most important quest lines of the game over the characters that I've been with and loved this whole time? They were just odd inclusions that didn't have a lot of impact. Lastly, and I know this is entirely to do with how the game wants to be played, it's very discovery-based, it wants you to experience things organically, but I found myself totally lost in Act 1 as to where I was supposed to be going to progress what I intended, and in Act 3, stumbling into unintended encounters that I couldn't have known better than to avoid. It's a dangerous world, I get it. It can get very draining though. You log on and tell yourself, I just want to do this one task, and several hours later, Not only have you not done what you set out to do at all, even progressed it, but you've suffered a couple stressful battles, met new NPCs, and added a whole new questline somehow. Which is awesome and expansive, but when you don't have a whole evening to sink into playing, I'd get worn out constantly getting dragged around in new directions rather than satisfyingly complete anything. So that's my review of Baldur's Gate 3. If you've played the 2025 patch with the new classes, please tell me how you like them. Are they fun? Let me know whether you can relate to any of my minor complaints, or think I should shut the hell up about the best game ever made. Okay, well, bye.